Are you challenged by this silent internal conflict every day? That chronic feeling of never feeling good enough? In this video, it's my intention to bring awareness to imposter syndrome in highly sensitive people and how this plays out in our life. Many highly sensitive people hesitate taking action or making a decision because they fear that they are not good enough or that someone else is smarter or better or more qualified. And we judge ourselves harshly to the point where it paralyzes us and our life gets put on hold. Highly sensitive people tend to downplay compliments about things that we've achieved, successes that we've had. We almost have a discomfort with recognition. We don't see our value and our contribution. We're constantly searching for meaning, for purpose, and we set very high standards and have really high expectations of ourselves. It's almost like we're in a constant state of striving, but never arriving. We prepare for a future event that is always somewhere out of our grasp, and we embark on perpetual endeavors towards perfection. We trivialize our successes and we feel like some sort of an imposter. Imposter syndrome is a psychological term that's usually associated with high achievers. And perhaps the first thing that we think of when I say imposter syndrome, we relate it to Wall Street bankers and stockbrokers. But how many highly sensitive people are detail-oriented, highly conscientious, set very high standards for themselves, and how many of us are crippled with self-doubt and with feelings of low self-worth? Highly sensitive people are really great observers. We're very detail-oriented and we notice patterns, but where this gift can actually hinder us is when we use our very conscientious, detail-oriented perception and awareness when we put the spotlight on ourselves and when we start comparing ourselves to others. And we carry intense feelings of anxiety when we compare our insides to other people's outsides. I've met many highly sensitive people who are extremely talented and who have numerous qualifications to show their competence. But somehow they feel that just one more diploma, another 3 years of training, will justify that they are really worthy of acknowledgement. And this can be a really good quality to have. But when we get into this perpetual state of striving, are we conscious of the driving motivation behind that behavior? It's an extreme form of self-motivation. And this applies to everybody. So whether you're a stay-at-home mother, whether you're a truck driver, whether you're an aerospace physicist, highly sensitive people have these extremely high standards and expectations of themselves. And we feel guilty that we are never quite good enough, that we are somehow frauds, and that there's someone else who's worthy of attention, recognition, and acknowledgement more than we are. Highly sensitive people tend to have an issue with internalizing their achievements. And I'm just going to speculate here for a moment and imagine how most of us highly sensitive people in our childhoods, we were more used to somebody else taking the limelight. We were more comfortable with somebody else being admired or respected or looked up to, and possibly because we associated overstimulation with too much attention. So we may have developed psychological programs which made us feel comfortable with not being recognized. In fact, feeling validated is quite foreign for us. People pleasing, putting others first, being seen and not heard, these are our comfort zones. In fact, for some of us, diverting attention from ourselves literally became a survival skill. Many people endured severe trauma and neglect in childhood, so it became instinctual for us to put other people's needs first. We had to keep quiet about addictions, about abuse, and we became really good at learning to divert the limelight. Many people may have had to participate in hiding shameful family secrets. We were burdened by guilt a sense of obligation and duty. We carried a great load of emotional responsibility that was not ours to carry. And so by this description, you can see how we recognized any sort of attention or recognition as a negative and uncomfortable thing. So now, translated into our adult lives, this may be why many highly sensitive people are extremely uncomfortable with any sort of attention. We may feel awkward, and being admired is not a familiar thing for us. Many highly sensitive people also grew up with bullying, with feelings of being different and never validated. We also may have associated attention with negative repercussions. In this context, it's not surprising that many highly sensitive people have constantly lived in a chronic state of low self-worth. We trivialize our successes and we feel like an imposter. And this is where the term imposter syndrome comes into play and relates to us. Self-awareness allows us to break this unconscious trance of constantly wanting to achieve more, to learn more, to give more. I propose that we learn to arrive. Many highly sensitive people have spent their entire lives striving to get somewhere, but how will we ever recognize that we've arrived? So here are some really great tips if this is an issue for you. First of all, recognize when you are minimizing or trivializing when someone pays you a compliment. By beginning to feel comfortable with this new conscious belief that you are good enough, that you are competent, sufficient, and fully deserving. Notice that you have arrived. Acknowledge yourself for everything that you have achieved. Perhaps when you feel uncomfortable when someone acknowledges something great that you did, just observe that uncomfortable feeling. Just by noticing and not judging the feeling that comes up allows a space for us to look and to question. And when someone praises you, say thank you without justifying, without minimizing, without denying, without making excuses or a story that you could have done it differently or you could have done it better or sooner or some other way. Just say thank you. Acknowledge that this person has given you a gift, that they are validating your skill, your talent, your goodness, something important that you contributed to their well-being. We all have high expectations in certain areas of our lives. We all judge ourselves very harshly, very critically. And every person has a different area that they feel vulnerable or they might need more acknowledgement in. But by consciously recognizing our thoughts, where these thoughts are coming from, questioning these thoughts, asking whether it's really true, whether it's something that we're unconsciously carrying from our childhood, this is the point where we can take our power back, and that negative self-defeating program will lessen its grip on our lives. So awareness of these things is always the first step to creating any change. This is the foundation of rebuilding our self-worth. This takes daily practice. Many of us walk around with this facade of everything's fine, everything's great. But for some of us, it's literally difficult to get up in the morning, put our clothes on, walk out the front door and confront the world with a smile on our face. Many people are challenged by this every day, dealing with chronic feelings of low self-worth, worthlessness, never feeling good enough. And another really loving suggestion that I'd like to make is, if you know what that feels like to never feel good enough, why not take an opportunity to recognize somebody else, pay them a compliment, make a remark on something that brings a smile to their face. Acknowledge someone for some small thing that they may not even see. Help them break that trance of unconsciousness and that feeling of striving and never feeling good enough. When you go to the coffee shop and you order your chai, pay attention to details and acknowledge the effort that people do when they are in service to you. And I love this concept of giving away what you want to receive. So many of us walk around never feeling good enough, seeking validation, wanting people to acknowledge our goodness. And in a perfect world, we would all be able to validate ourselves internally all the time. But realistically, it is lovely to get someone's validation and to feel that someone admires us or respects us. So why not make an effort to give that to someone else.
And let's use our heightened awareness not to pick faults, but to see all the good things and to validate ourselves.
So perhaps this recognition of imposter syndrome and how it plays out in your life can help you realize and break this spell of never feeling good enough. What if we bravely showed up exactly as we are, where we are, with what we have?